What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I hope you like this video. This is going to be your review for We're Here Season 2, Episode 2. Now listen, we are in Temecula, California. I think I've heard the name Temecula before, but I don't know nothing about Temecula, child. I ain't gonna lie, okay? And again, it is post-COVID. It's December 2020. And so, we are still very much in that phase of mask and social distancing, and we ain't even taking vaccines at this point because let me see. We're not even. So, they said a lot of places are closed, a lot of, the bars and things like that. And so their options are very slim. But of course, they want to keep moving with the show, for a variety of reasons. Okay. So let's get into it. All right. We have, what I wrote? Deb and James. Now, James is a transgender boy. James is like middle school age. He's young, and he has Asperger's. He's on the spectrum, and so you have those two things. You have a child who's dealing with figuring out their sexuality and figuring out where they stand, and then dealing with being on the spectrum, which adds a whole nother layer of complications, right? And so he's very much into cosplay and things of that nature. And him and his mom are really, really close. It's like him and his mom against the world, right? And so Bob is paired with them. And, Bob, the biggest thing I saw them working with in this situation with James is James very much, I think, submerged himself into the world of cosplay as a way to deal with everything. And he kept wanting to emulate this character of Dio. And Bob kept trying to get him to come out of that and identify with, be your own superhero, right? Create your own character. You don't have to become Dido in order to deal with what you have going on in the world. James collects pride pins. James, listen, I even have a pin to let you know what my pronouns are, so it won't be no problems, okay? And James is a really sweet kid. He really seems like a really, really sweet kid. And you even see in the moment sometimes where you can see where he's a little awkward, and figuring it all out because he's still a kid. I think this is probably one of the youngest people they had on the show. I know there was in season 1 there was a father whose daughter was sick. I think the daughter had a form of cancer, and I think the daughter became part of the show, but de facto part of the show. But anyway, and so but that's what we have that, and then we meet Jake, Brad, and Michelle. Now, Jake and Brad are a couple. Michelle is Brad's mom. Now, Michelle is very much, I love my son. I accept my son. I'm not going to let the world do nothing bad to my son. She's very pro-Christian, very, very pro-religion. She said, but I do not believe that my son is going to hell. I don't believe that that's what God preaches. That ain't my God. But what I found interesting with Michelle, and Eureka is paired with them. Now, Michelle has great intentions, right? But Michelle said something at one point about, I thought it was interesting, even when she said it, about, I want to make sure that my son knows that he has family here and family that loves him, because I don't want him to feel like he has to go out and find other family outside of us, like a drag family or his gay family. And what I thought was very interesting, because when she said it, I was like, oh my goodness, that was a little harsh, right? At least that's how it hit me. But by the end of the episode, because of some other things that we saw transpire in this episode, Michelle absolutely understood the importance of being a drag family or a gay family for a child. And by the end of this episode was somebody's de facto gay mom. Okay, we're going to get to that, though. We're going to get to that. But Brad and, Jake, they've talked about how uncomfortable it is, when they first started dating, how uncomfortable it was, like holding hands and just being very open in public, in town, because they weren't comfortable. And, the challenges, obviously, of being a gay couple, a small town America. And he said, I know I'm lucky to have my mom. I know that my mom has my back and my mom is in my corner, but sometimes, it's a little, he still feels like sometimes it's, again, the best of intentions, but maybe not always the execution. Eureka asked, was she going to be a part of the drag show? And she was like, no. Like, it was a hard no. And, Eureka, when Eureka was talking to Jake and Brad by themselves without Michelle, he asked about that. He said, does that bother you that, she doesn't want to be a part of the show? And, it was one of those things where it's like, well, yeah, but we understand, but definitely felt like Brad would have wanted his mom to be a part of the show, right? And well, I'll keep going because I don't want to forget to say anything. So at one point, Eureka did approach her about being in the drag show, and Eureka, was like, listen, I think it would mean a lot to him. Like, I think I think that would show him that you are 100% on board with this, that you're not ashamed of him, and you're not worried about what other people would say, that you're just throwing all the caution to the wind and saying, listen, this is who we are, and this is what it is, and I love, love, love it, right? And I don't know what Temecula is, but Brad and Jake must be doing something right, because they got this beautiful home and this beautiful ass pool out in their backyard. I don't know what they do for a living. I missed that part that they said it, but baby, okay? Anyway, so Eureka was able to convince her to privately get into drag. And she didn't even want to call it drag. She just said play dress up. And Eureka was like, drag? Like, you mean drag? And she, she was like, dress up. And so he got her to be open to it. But it wasn't until, I'm going to get to that, there was another conversation that I think pushed her over the edge. So, in walks Andre. Now, Andre is Filipino. He was a cheerleader. So, he's very much, and he's paired with Shangela. He said he had moved away, but because of the pandemic, he had to move back home. And it's been really, really hard because he feels like he can't be who he authentically is. He can't be his authentic self. His mom is like, listen, I love you, but you can't be gay. Like I can't do the gay thing. I can't do the gay thing. I love you, but I can't do the gay thing. And because he's living in her house, it's kind of like, okay. And then he was saying, with everything, with the panty and with my mom's age, it's a lot of layers to me being here, But he's paired up with Shangela, and he just talked about the challenges of the culture, the Filipino culture. And he said, being a cheerleader always gave me it was an opportunity for me to be a little more flashy, a little more pep in my step, a little, give me a little without it being so obvious. And Shannon was like, well, I was a cheerleader too. Like, I get it. Like, I understand. So that's how they sort of bonded or what have you. And so we saw where, again, going back to Bob and James, we saw where Bob, again, was trying to talk to James and get James to really, truly understand you are your own superhero. Like, I really, because everything James kept saying he wanted to do, it was, well, Dial would do it like this, and Dial walks like this, and Dial, and he was like, mm-mm. And he was really nice about it. Like, kudos to Bob for being able to, navigate it in such a positive way, because sometimes Bob don't be having a whole lot of patience for people, child. But I think because it was a child, there was a level of patience that Bob might not have had with an adult. I don't know. But I think Bob was really trying to get him to understand, I need you to find all of these things that you're talking about. I need you to find them in yourself. I need you to find them in your strength. And I need you to have that strength within yourself, right? There was a moment where all of them came together, and Eureka had Michelle talk to Andre and ask Andre, how important would it be for your mom to come to the show and be a part of the show with you? And of course, Andre let it be known how important that would be for him, and just how, like it just would, do something for him if his mom would be there. And he got very emotional, and and started crying. It was a very emotional conversation, and I think that's what did it for Michelle. I think in that moment, Michelle was like, "I get it. Like I get it. I see it from somewhere else, and I get it." And I think sometimes, until people see it for themselves, I think sometimes people really think that a lot of these stories that people, LGBTQIA people, tell are exaggerated or are anomalies. Like, okay, well, that might happen every once in a while, but that doesn't really happen, And so I think with Michelle seeing Andre's emotion and just the whole situation, I think it gave her an insight for her to be like, okay, I get it. I see it and I get it, right? So, I'm sorry. Excuse me, y'all. So, we get down to the performances, and like I said, James was Captain James of Atlantis, and it was his show was very rock and roll, very David Bowie, Tommy Boy, esque. And he was out there by himself, honey, because I thought his mother was going to do the show with him. And the whole time, James was out there. He performed to "It's My Life." I think it was in Backstreet Boys, somebody. But I think it was a rock and roll song. Anyway, moving on. It was so emotional. Listen, this show gets me every time. The reason why, I know I'm behind on my reviews, but the reason why, because this show gets me every time. Like, this episode James' mama was doing the ugly cry the whole time. Just the pride, and again, we're talking about a trans boy that's probably middle school age and on the spectrum. I can only imagine the challenges, and I can only imagine what that moment meant for him and his mom. And because him and his mom are so close. And of course, Bob came out, and it was a whole moment, but I was here for it, and he did a great job. Like, he did a really, really good job. Jake and Brad, they performed to Lady Gaga's Paparazzi. Mama got in drag, honey. Now, Mama was in the audience with her blue wig on and her makeup and her whole drag moment. Because, again, I think people don't understand that women can be in drag too, okay? It is a whole moment, okay? And listen, Brad and Jake, if y'all watching this review, I love y'all. I think y'all are the cutest little things. But, baby, Brad and Jake was struggling through that performance. Honey, they was giving me a whole lot with them heels. And listen, let's be clear, I couldn't do it either in them heels, and I'm a whole woman, okay? I couldn't do it in them heels either, okay? Me and heels are not friends. But again, it was great because at the end, Michelle, they did like a whole like Instagram thing, and then Michelle came up on stage and put a heart on it, and then stood with them like she was in the picture. And it was a moment. And again, that little bit that she stood up there with her son and her son-in-law and said, "This, yes, they belong to me. I am them." You know what I'm saying? When you see them, you see me, we see each other kind of thing. It was a moment. It was a whole moment. Now, Andre had a little breakdown before the performance because his mom said that they weren't coming. And he got very emotional, and he was crying. Shangela wouldn't let them tears fall, honey. I said, "That's right, Shangela." And in that moment is where I saw Michelle get it. It wasn't even verbal. I don't think she verbally said, "Oh, I get it." But in that moment, she got it, right? And she went over and she hugged him, and she was like, "Listen, And at the end, she was saying, I get it. Like, I can be that extension. Not only am I the mom to Jake and Brad, but I can be the mom for others, for other, kids who need a mom, who need that guidance and that love. And I was like, she gets it. Because I think a lot of times we feel like, oh, those are just one or two situations. Those aren't like the whole thing. And you realize that, boom, this is it, right? This is really what it is for a lot of people. And his mom didn't want to come to the performance because she couldn't get past the fact that her son was gay. So it was a good episode. Like I said, I love this show. I'm going to get caught up. I'm behind y'all, and there might not be nobody watching this review but me, and that's okay. Because I love this show, and I just think everybody needs to go and watch it. I just think they do. So I'm going to keep doing the reviews. Thank y'all. Peace.